In today's society, there's a growing trend. Many men are no longer interested in dating women who earn significantly more than they do. And this isn't about insecurity. This isn't about ego. It's not about being threatened by a strong woman. That's just the surface-level nonsense people throw out when they don't want to face the deeper truth. This shift is rooted in far more powerful forces: psychological, emotional, and even spiritual dynamics that reflect the natural polarity between masculine and feminine energy. Let's make something very clear from the beginning. Masculine men, the kind of men who lead, build, conquer, protect, and provide, are not interested in competing with their partner. They don't want to come home to someone who brings the same energy they bring to the battlefield every day. They don't want to match resumes, argue over control, or live in a silent cold war of who's the real alpha in the house. They want peace. They want support. They want feminine warmth. And often, high-earning, hyper-independent women simply do not bring that to the table. But every time men voice this preference, they get attacked. You must be insecure. You're just intimidated. You can't handle a successful woman. And that reaction, that knee-jerk attempt to shame men into silence, exposes everything. It's a tactic, a psychological weapon. Shame, guilt, gaslighting. Tools designed to make men question their instincts, their standards, and their boundaries. But the thing is, more and more men are waking up. The veil is lifting, and they're not playing that game anymore. They've learned to see through the manipulation. The moment a man stands up and says, "This kind of relationship doesn't work for me," there's an immediate attempt to tear him down. But today's man, the man who has worked on himself, built himself, suffered, bled and risen from his own ashes, that man doesn't fold under pressure. He doesn't need validation from people who don't walk his path. He knows who he is. For decades, men have been bombarded with phrases like, "If you were a real man, you'd be okay with this," or "Only a weak man would feel uncomfortable with a powerful woman." But here's the truth. Real men are okay with power. But they don't want it in their woman. They want femininity. They want emotional availability. They want loyalty. They want softness. Because power in a relationship doesn't mean two generals barking orders. It means a king and a queen, not two kings. And when a woman shows up like a king, there's no throne left for the man to sit on. Let's get something straight. This is not about fragility. This is about polarity. Masculine energy is drawn to feminine energy, not masculine energy in a different body. A woman can be beautiful, successful, intelligent, and ambitious. But if she has hardened herself to the point where she can no longer receive, support, or trust a man's leadership, she becomes unrelatable, unreachable, unattractive to the very kind of man she desires. She will attract relationships where she doesn't respect the man. And yet society continues to push this false narrative. Men are told to conform, to be more modern, to embrace the boss chick, to submit, to tone it down. And men who comply, men who obey, what do they get? Resentment, disrespect, silent contempt from their partner. Because women don't respect men who bend at every demand. They test you. They push you. They subconsciously want you to say no, to lead, to hold the frame. And when you don't, they lose interest. Men have been asking the wrong question for far too long. What do women want? But the tide is turning. Men are no longer building their identity around female approval. They're asking, what do I want in a woman? What kind of life do I want to build? And that single shift in focus changes everything. Because when a man stops orbiting around female validation and starts building his world with purpose, vision, and strength, he becomes unstoppable. Weak men chase. They bend. They beg. They accept crumbs. Strong men choose. They walk away when something doesn't align. They don't debate or explain their standards. They live them. And let me tell you something. Women feel the difference. They feel it when a man stands on solid ground. When he doesn't need her, but chooses her. When he leads not with force, but with certainty. Too many men today have been broken down by this culture. They've been conditioned to think that their value lies in how many women they can sleep with, or how agreeable they can be to avoid conflict. But physical access doesn't equal emotional respect. And if your entire identity is built on impressing women, then you've already lost. Because any man can get laid, but only a few men can attract a woman who aligns with their values, submits to their leadership, and complements their mission. That's the real test. Ask yourself, what kind of woman do you really want? Is she nurturing, loyal, feminine, or is she combative, transactional, and always comparing herself to you? If you don't know what kind of woman you want, you'll accept whatever comes along, and you'll suffer for it. The modern world tells men to suppress their instincts, to tolerate disrespect, to become passive, agreeable, and non-toxic. But that experiment is failing, miserably. Men are not fulfilled. Women are not fulfilled. Families are falling apart. And why? Because we tried to rewrite human nature. We tried to reverse the polarity. And now men are saying, enough, no more. We're done pretending. We're not here to compete with our partners. We're not interested in relationships that feel like negotiations or business contracts. We want peace, polarity, trust, and mutual respect. And if that means walking away from women who no longer embody feminine energy, so be it. Women often say, I want a strong man. But what they really mean is, I want a man who will do everything I say, never challenge me, and still somehow lead. That's not a strong man. That's a servant. That's a puppet. And real men, men who have built themselves from the ground up, will never accept that role. Ever. The truth is simple and timeless. When a man stops chasing women and starts chasing purpose, everything changes. He no longer begs for attention. He no longer sacrifices his standards for fleeting validation. He moves differently. He speaks differently. He leads differently. And the women who once ignored him suddenly notice. Why? Because women aren't drawn to men who follow. They're drawn to men who walk their own path with discipline and direction. And from that place of power, he can choose. He can decide who gets access to his world, who supports his mission, who complements his masculinity, not out of bitterness, not out of ego, but out of clarity. Now listen, women are free to do whatever they want, build careers, make millions, travel the world, be as independent as they like. But understand this, there are consequences. If you embody masculine energy 24/7, don't be surprised when masculine men don't respond the way you want. Don't be shocked when they avoid you, ignore you, or choose women who bring softness and peace instead. That's not sexism, that's polarity. Because here's what happens when a woman builds herself into a hyper-competitive, assertive, boss-type persona. She attracts passive men she doesn't respect. And the men she does respect, the strong ones, the leaders, want nothing to do with her. Why? Because they don't want to come home to an argument. They want a woman, not a rival. This isn't about hate. It's not about division. It's about truth. It's a reality check. Roles matter. Energies matter. Polarity matters. And the men who have reclaimed their masculine essence, they're no longer apologizing for it. They're not interested in being scolded, corrected, or reprogrammed. They know who they are, and they're choosing women who honor that, not fight it. If you made it this far, leave a crown emoji in the comments. Let me know that you don't just click, you commit and finish what you start. And remember, live with honor or die a coward. Thanks for watching. Take care and stay strong.